Hello, so this is the part of the EMG podcast where we discuss the three side worlds, EMG Americas, EMG Africa, and EMG MENA. We're going to start off with EMG Americas, as the first season of Game World has just concluded on the 3rd of April, with the playoffs finishing a couple of days later. I'd like to congratulate Division 1 winner Nassim Sabah, who's Barcelona SC of Ecuador, or Barcelona Guayaquil, won the inaugural Division 1 title, beating Argent's Atlético Nacional from Medellin, Colombia, by goal difference. Both sides finished on 59 points, although Barcelona won the title with a goal difference of 27 compared to a goal difference of 22. Behind them, a point behind, was the strongest. Tom Joseph, the strongest, finished 3rd, 58 points. Concluding the top 4, Emelec, managed by Limshad, finished on 57 points. And then going down, Colo Colo come 5th on 52. Millonarios come 6th on 49. Universitario de Deportes come 7th on 42 points. JJ's New England Revolution come 8th on 38 points. And then there's 3 further teams then who finished on 38. Toronto FC, managed by Jonesy, come 9th. Chicago Fire, managed by Kane, come 10th. And then Penarol come 11th. All for 3 of those teams, plus JJ's New England, finished on 38 points. Universidad de Chile finished 12th, just staying up on 36 points. And then the bottom 4, the 4 relegated teams were Viltops Nacional, who finished on 13. DC United, who finished on 14th on 25 points. Sporting Kansas City finished 15th on 21 points. And then FC Dallas, managed by Greg Robinson, finished quite a way off survival on 18 points. All 4 head down to Division 2 next season. And on to Division 2, I'd like to congratulate Jabril, who's won another side EMG Game World. His Seattle Sounders won Division 2 on 61 points. They finished 2 points ahead of James Glasspool's Montreal Impact on 59 points. El Mago finished 3rd on 57. El Mago's New York Red Bulls. And then going down, Portland finished 4th on 54. Independiente finished 5th on 51. Newell's Old Boys finished 6th on 49. Vélez Sarsfield finished 7th on 48. Orlando City finished 8th on 47. Santos finished 9th on 46. San Lorenzo finished 10th on 40 points. Atalanta United finished 11th on 33 points. And Pachuca finished 12th on 32 points. And then the 4 relegated sides were Fizz's Cruz Azul, who has become a bit of a meme, playing players out of position, mainly playing Messi as a centre-back, and spending most of his budget on Haaland, Vinicius and Messi. They head down to Division 3. Club Leon, who were originally managed by Scopa, but spent most of the season up until after the season had finished under the admin account, finished 14th on 24 points. 15th place, Yunnan Pumas, finished on 21 points. Alan Austin's Pumas had a disappointing end to the season, only get 1 point from their last 6, and were 11 points off safety. And then arguably the worst team in the whole game world, Vancouver Whitecaps, who were originally managed by a Mexican manager called Juan Carlos. They only won 2 games this season, got 11 points and conceded 106 goals. They had some questionable signings. They bought a lot of Liga MX players who are not like 21-year-olds. They bought a 26-year-old from my Chivas team who plays for Chivas in real life. He's an 86. However, when everyone else is signing players to play in Europe, and he's not a young player, it's a questionable signing, and Juan Carlos got found out and then left with a few games of the season left to go. They're now managed by a new manager, which is Emmanuel Di Maio, who is Argentinian, and obviously they're going to have he's going to have a lot of work to get done. You know, they have some talent, but, buying players who play for Chivas, Tawana, Mexican players because they're Mexican is not going to win you stuff in EMG. So, a very disappointing season for Vancouver, and it might be a tough one in Division 3 potentially. On to Division 3. I'd like to congratulate Jaden, whose River Plate won Division 3 on 61 points. They just pipped Panes Botafogo by 1 goal. Both had the exact same record of 18 wins, 7 draws and 5 losses. However, River Plate had a goal difference of 26. Botafogo had a goal difference of 25. In third, Racing Club, managed by Bami, finished on 56 points. And then going down, LA Galaxy finished fourth on 56, just missing out on automatic promotion on goal difference. Atletico Mineiro finished fifth on 55 points. Palmeiras finished sixth on 53 points. And Sao Paulo finished seventh on 51 points. And then going down further, Inter Miami finished 8th on 42. Chivas Guadalajara finished 9th on 39. Corinthians, managed by Neri, finished 10th on 33 points. Fluminense finished 11th on 31 points. Boca Juniors finished 12th on 30 points. Tigres finished 13th on 24 points. Monterrey finished 14th on 23 points. Club America finished 15th on 22 points. And Columbus Crew finished bottom of Division 3 on 21 points. As for the playoffs, Division 2 was won by Vélez Sarsfield. So Eros and I'd like to congratulate you on your promotion. They beat Independiente in the final 2-1. And then in Division 3, I'd like to congratulate Mohamed Hashmal's LA Galaxy as they pipped Atletico Mineiro on penalties, winning 3-0 on penalties after a 0-0 playoff final draw. As for your Connect Cup qualifiers, you have, obviously, it's the top 2 in each league that qualify for the Champions Cup, and in third place goes to the Challenge Cup. And then, obviously, the Cup Winners' Cup is based off cup performance. So for the Champions Cup, Nassim's Barcelona and Arjun's Atletico Nacional qualify from Division 1 for the Champions Cup. From Division 2, Jabril's Seattle Sounders and James's Montreal Impact go into the Champions Cup. And from Division 3, Jaden's River Plate and Panes Botafogo from Division 3 go to the Champions Cup. The third place teams from the 3 leagues go to the Challenge Cup. So that's Tom Joseph's The Strongest, El Mago's New York Red Bulls, and Racing Club, which is managed by Bami. As for the cups, it's the cup finalists, as a normal game worlds that make the Cup Winners' Cup. Davian, Sao Paulo, and Eros and Vélez Sarsfield qualify for making the cup final, obviously, which was won by Davian and Sao Paulo. And then for the Shield, obviously the actual Shield winner was River Plate, who qualified for the Champions Cup. So in their place, 4th place from the fourth team who finished 4th with the most points takes their place, which is Emelec, Limchad's Emelec from Division 1. And obviously the Shield finalist, losing finalist, Philtops Nacional, will take the final spot from EMG Americas in the Cup Winners' Cup. On to EMG Africa, we'll go next, so across the Atlantic. And we'll go to Division 1. So EMG Africa is in its 5th season now. It was a month ago, but it was obviously set up at the end of February 2024. Currently, Mamelodi Sundowns are leading Division 1, managed by Erosinin. They're 2 points ahead of Babajide's Mazembe and 3 points ahead of Panes Orlando Pirates. Simba finish currently 4th on 16 points, and Yimba are 5th on 16 points. Stade Malien are 6th on 14 points. Supersport United are 7th on 14 points. Amazulu 8th on 13 points. AS Vita are currently 9th on 13 points. James Young's Young Africans are 10th on 12 points. Rashini's Almeric are 11th on 8 points. And then unmanaged Hearts of Oak 6th of 12th on 6 points. Looking at the table, I can see obviously Young Africans are having a disappointing season. Done pretty well in the lower league, come up this year and seemingly struggled. Mark Spicer's Supersport United, as much as until he left the group, was going on about how great his recruitment was and calling everybody EMG noobs. they're actually doing very disappointingly. I thought I expected them to do a bit better, but they currently sit 7th. On to Division 2. Sinan TM's Cotton Sport finished first on 24 points. Second place Dolphins finished currently, who are managed by Bami, on 22 points. JJ's Gormahira third on 19 points. Jabril's ASEC Mimosas are fourth on 19 points. And then going further down, Asante Kotoko are fifth on 18 points. One Day Augusta are sixth on 14 points. Shanty Gold are seventh on 12 points. And Aqua United are eighth on 12 points. The bottom four currently is Petro Atletico, who are on 8 points in 9th. Wari Wolves are 10th on 7 points. Canon Uwande 11th on 7 points, and AFC Leopards are 12th on 6 points. Division 2 is the only league in EMG Africa that is all managed. Division 1 has one unmanaged club, which is Hearts of Oak, and Division 3 has 4 unmanaged clubs currently. And that's obviously a factor in this game mode that it is not fully managed. On to Division 3, Bloemfontein Celtic currently are top on 24 points. They're 2 points ahead of Jonesy's Kaiser Chiefs, who are currently second on 22 points. And then unmanaged Plateau United are third on 20 points. And then on to the playoffs. 4th place is Al Hilal Omdurman. 5th place is Real Bamako. 6th place is Dynamos. 7th place is the unmanaged Kano Pillars. 8th place is Sesco United on 11 points. 9th place is Enugu Rangers on 9 points. 10th place is St George on 7 points. 11th place is Cape Town City, which is managed by myself, who are on 5 points in second bottom. And then bottom of all of Division 3 and all of EMG Africa is Gifts, RAS, Arta Soler 7, who are in 12th place on 4 points. Obviously, the next round is the halfway stage of the season, which will be on Sunday the 13th of April. That'll be, we'll get an idea of who at the halfway stage, who's in contention to get promotion and who is in contention to be in a bit of a relegation scrap. There is also Cup semi-finals on Tuesday. That's between Orlando Pirates v Dynamos and Simba v Petro Atletico. And that'll be taking place on Tuesday the 15th of April. And then on to EMG Maina, which is the oldest and the original side world that we set up back in 2023. We're now 10 seasons into this game mode, and this is arguably one of the tougher, arguably as tough as main world. Obviously there's no rating or caps or age caps or any specific rules. It's got the same rules as the EMG main world, but without the finances. And because obviously it's a smaller game mode, it's only 24 teams, it is hard to, obviously you are up against the best. And a lot of these teams have had success against main world teams. Obviously, there have been previous winners from EMG Maina in EMG Connect Cups, including Al Sadd, who have won the Champions Cup, as well as Al Ali. And on to Division 1, the aforementioned Al Sadd, managed by Arjun, currently sit first on 10 points. Second place is Al Ittihad, managed by Pane, who are on 7 points. And then the 2 clubs below them is Al Ali, who are in third on 7 points. And 4th place Al Shabab, who we'll mention in a minute, on 7 points. And then also Al Duhail are 5th on 7 points. James Young's Hapoel Beersheva, also known as the Beermen, are currently 6th on 5 points. Then the bottom 2 are Nery's Raja Casablanca, who have 1 point from 4 games. And Viltop's Beitar Jerusalem, who sit 8th, who have lost all 4 games, are on 0 points. Now the big surprise, though it was mentioned over the months previously, is Al Shabab, who were the powerhouse of this game mode. Their manager Jabril stood down after winning everything and wanting to cut down on clubs. He was replaced by Fizz, who obviously manages Liverpool, on Durman, Cruz Azul, and obviously previously managed Wydad in Maina for 2 occasions. Obviously Wydad was replaced by Davian. Fizz has had an okay start, 2 wins, 1 draw and a defeat. It'll be interesting to see if Al Shabab continue to be the dominant team or fall back and Al Sadd takes over on another of the powerhouses in Maina D1. And on to Maina D2. They're currently led by JJ Samalek, who are first on 10 points. My Al Nassr are second on 7 points. Dale's Esperance de Tunis are third on 7 points. And then Baraf's Pyramids are fourth on 7 points. Babajide's Belouizdad are fifth on 5 points. Vinny's Al Hilal Riyadh are sixth on 3 points. And then the bottom two is Sir Joe's or Corey Joe's USM Algiers, who are on 3 points, and Jonesy's Club African, who are on 2 points, who've got 2 draws and 2 losses so far this season. And then on to Division 3, we have Davian's Widad, and Davian has a 100% record start in EMG Africa. EMG MENA, that deserves a round of applause. 4 wins, 11 goals scored, 3 conceded. Division 3 in MENA is renowned as one of the weaker divisions in EMG. There's a lot of teams who have not been built very well and aren't very competitive, but to go unbeaten in a new game world, that's very impressive from Davian. Maccabi Tel Aviv, managed by Bami, sits second on 8 points. Shabab Al Ahly, managed by Sinan, sit third on 6 points. And then the remaining 5 teams, AS FAR Rabat are fourth on 5 points. Al Ettifaq are fifth on 4 points. Al Ahly Jeddah are sixth on 3 points. Al Arabi are seventh on 2 points. And sitting bottom of EMG MENA, as he is in EMG Africa, Gifts Al Ain are sit last on 1 point. And that wraps up the Side Worlds part of the podcast. Up next will be the part where myself and Neri discuss Division 4 and Main World. If you listen to this on Spotify, it will be 2 separate episodes. This will be part 1, and the Main World part and D4 will be part 2. If you listen to it on YouTube, it will just be straight after this is finished. Hello, this is the EMG Podcast. I am joined today by Neri, Barcelona, Amazulu, Raja Casablanca, and Corinthians boss, and hopefully we'll have Babajide join in a bit. This is the 4th part of this week's podcast. There'll be 3 previous parts prior to this regarding Americas, Africa, and MENA. First off, we will start with the Division 4, as that season wrapped up recently. Let's see if I can share my screen now. EMG's the Division 4 finished on Thursday. I'd like to congratulate Dinamo Zagreb on winning Division 4 this season. They just beat Swansea, Red Bull Salzburg, at Rangers and Gothenburg to the title. Tenoch was manager at the end of the season. However, Pane did most of the hard work, only leaving about a week or 10 days ago. Overall standings, Zagreb finished first on 54, Swansea on 51, Salzburg on 51, Rangers on 50, Gothenburg on 50, Olympiacos on 48, Young Boys on 47, Bruges on 42, Crvena Zvezda on 40, Shakhtar Donetsk on 39, Zenit St. Petersburg on 38, Sparta Prague on 38, Cardiff on 37, Copenhagen on 33, Celtic on 25, and Galatasaray in last place on 21. As for the league admin qualification spots for Division 4, Zenit St. Petersburg, managed by Jonesy and by Cardiff, will enter the Challenge Cup, and Copenhagen will enter the Cup Winners' Cup. As for Division Main World, we'll start off as per usual with Division 3. Juventus are currently the leaders with a 6-point gap over Bayern in second on 26. Leipzig, Villa, Sevilla and Villarreal are in the playoffs. Then Lille are in 7th, Palace 8th, Monaco 9th, Roma 10th, Leverkusen 11th, Valencia 12th, Marseille 13th, and Leicester 14th. Neri, any surprises you've seen this season in D4, and just anything you've noticed from this season in Division 3?
The only surprise is that not because his club yet, although by just 1 point. But I think apart from that, there has been no surprises. I think Leverkusen is underperforming. So if you look at the overall quality of the Division 3, you see Leverkusen, they don't really have that squad strength to strengthen for. So I think Juventus is in which I'm surprised is doing this well. You just 6 points, anything can happen. 4 games. No surprises for me, though. Surprises.
Yeah, Juventus, I mean, under Pani, they were sort of a team that maybe you could say underperformed a little bit, but had the potential to compete. Moses has got previous of getting teams out of Division 3, did so a few seasons back with Monaco. Obviously, he's come in to take Juve, and it looks like he's, unless of a catastrophic bottle job, he seems to be set to make Division 2, next season, and even then has the potential to kick on further. I was surprised a bit by Sevilla underperforming. I thought Ajmal went and tried to get some ratings this year, so I thought he would do a little bit better than he has. He is currently in the playoffs. About a week ago, he was 10th, 11th. So, he's in the playoff picture. He's only 2 points actually out off second. So it could end up being a good season for him. But yeah, it's a case of they've had a slow start. And also as well, Lille I'd like to see say as a surprise package. A team that we all think needs a rebuild, and obviously David's not the most vocal manager, but he's quietly been in the background doing a good job. Lille sits 7th, have a shot at the playoffs, got a -2 goal difference which could come back to bite them potentially, but obviously with 10 games to go, they've put themselves in a real good position to potentially contend to get promoted up to Division 2. And obviously as well, your Leverkusen down at 11th. I just noticed it. I'm quite surprised you that low actually. I thought you would have done better than that, especially with, you're down with the usual dead bad sides of the game world, i.e. Valencia and Marseille. So yeah, but even then, you're only 5 points off the playoffs. And so on to Division 2. Division 2 is currently led by James Young's Lazio, who looking like they're set for a instant return back to Division 1 after relegation last season. Ajax sit 2nd, Chelsea sit 3rd, Sociedad sit 4th, Milan sit 5th, Inter Milan sit 6th, and then mid-table is Tottenham, Everton, Bilbao, Lyon and Atalanta. And then the bottom 3 is currently occupied by Porto, Mönchengladbach and Man United. Any surprises in this? Any surprises in Division 2 for yourself this season, Neri?
I think United being bottom of the table is the big shock. I mean, there should be at least 10 mid-table team, and also Everton. No, I don't think we all expect Everton to be this far off this type of team.
Yeah.
It's like dropping to the table team. So, the team he has and the manager in charge. I was expecting them to to be at least, if not to win the league automatically, but at least they should be top three. And so quite yet, I think Everton is underperforming, and leading the table is Lazio. Kudos to James. He's doing a great job. He has a good team and he's back in the top. Lazio has always been a tough team. They have always kept them afloat in the division. But now that James is in charge, I think they have a shot at motion again. And Chelsea also, Chelsea is doing extremely well for someone that just got promoted to division 2. And if you check Chelsea's team, they don't have that good team they're making do. So it goes to Chelsea and Lazio. And for Tottenham also, I think they are still in the run for promotion actually. They have a little bit of waiting there and in places that matters. So fingers crossed on what to expect from them. But the biggest underperformer so far has been Everton, Manchester United, and our favorite doctor, also Bukhari. It's pretty comfortable at the bottom to the kind of squad he has. They're expecting to push for something. He has the force of both and back defense. So that's my take about the team.
Yeah, Everton. I'm actually very surprised Bojan's that low down. Obviously, Bojan's a 3-time Division 1 champion with his previous job at Rennes. And Everton are a side who are Division 1 standard. They've got a very, very good side, but they sit 8th. 4 wins, 8 draws, 4 losses after 16 games. 20 points and 4 points off the playoffs. 12 off second place Ajax. And they're only 6 ahead of Porto, who are in 12th in the relegation zone. Currently, Everton aren't actually qualifying for any Connect Cup, which is a big shock because I think to most people, they were one of the favourites to win Division 2. But to see them down in 8th is very disappointing. And they've only got one win in their last 6. They've had 3 draws and 2 losses. So they're not in form at all. There's teams worse than them in worse form for them. And there's going to be another shock team that I'll mention in a minute. But Everton being out, not even in the playoffs, let alone the promotion push, is really, really surprising. And I think Bojan will be quite disappointed with that. Lyon is one I was going to mention. Now, ever since Eero Senini's been in charge of Lyon nearly coming up to 2 years now. Well, over 2 years now, since Jibril went to Wolves. Lyon have been sort of making multiple playoff finals in Division 2 and just missing out in that playoff final. But this season they sit 10th on 18 points. 4 wins, 6 draws and 6 losses. Haven't won. They've lost their last 5. They've got 1 point in their last 6. And in fact, they last won a game on the 13th of March. So they've not won a game in their last 8. They've got 3 points out of a possible 24. So this is a team that potentially could be in a slump towards Division 3 the way they're going, which is very, very surprising for someone who has shown in especially EMG Africa and America's game world that he is a top manager. But he's just not clicking this season, and it looks like they're only 4 points above Porto in 12th, and it could be, and they're 6 behind Inter. It's they're definitely in a battle to stay in the league, and just looking at their transfers, they've just sold Polinia for 50 million to Leicester, and Morgan Rogers has left to go to Wolves. They're selling very talented Nico Williams a couple of weeks ago to Benfica. All right, they got Baena in, but they're losing a lot of talent for players. The way Lyon is going as a team, from a team that was projected, a lot of people thought could make Division 1 the way they'd been going. Maybe slightly overachieving a little bit, but they had a good team. They're now, could, if they're not careful, slide down to Division 3, which would be terrible for the club, Ero. In regards to the 3, Atalanta won. They overperformed a little bit last season. They're down in 11th, 3 points above the drop zone. I think it's just a disappointing season for Alan Austin, and I think, if they can get a couple of wins, they should stay up, and they just slowly build. The Challenge Cup champions Bilbao just sit mid-table, lost the playoff final last season, have slid that back a little bit, sitting 9th. They're sort of 5 points above 12th, but 5 points off 6th. They're banging mid-table, and Glinks potentially, I think 6 wins, 1 draw, and 9 defeats. I think Bilbao potentially could do a little bit better, but I think they're just a mid-table side. And then for the bottom 3, Mr. Harry Banty, Dr. Ubi's Porto sit 12th. Porto have been mid-table for ever since James Young took over them like 2.5 years ago, or whatever it was. They've been the most Crystal Palace, or actually no, Preston / Bristol City for Championship. People who watch Championship. Porto is effectively being that in this game mode. They always come between like 8th and 10th. They're never threatened by relegation, but they never make the playoffs. They 3 points off Atalanta. Bought Osimhen in as a big money signing, and he's done. Let's just check his stats now. But he's done. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists. So for a player that cost 16 million plus 2 youngsters in Giatruva and Lavia, and it's pretty disappointing. They've also sold Milos Kerkez for Harvey Elliott. And they've bought Emre Can this week from Betis as a rating. I'd worry a bit for Porto. I think Godsend's got a lot of work to do. Gladbach only just stayed up last season in a major rebuild. I'm not surprised they're down in 13th, unfortunately, for Naz fan. They've got a lot of talent. They did pay a lot, quite infamously, for Arda Güler, which, it's going to be dependent on how Arda Güler does in real life, as all SM does. A lot of youngsters just bought Casemiro after he was sold for concerns, so that's a rating, but he's going to drop in the summer, and that's not going to be a long-term deal player for NAS fans, Gladbach. And then finally, Rashidis United. Man United is a team that should be performing much better, but Rashidis the type of manager who does underperform a little bit with his clubs. They've got Julian Alvarez, they've got Lautaro Martinez, they've got Jared Bowen, they've got Hjulmand, they've got McTominay, they've got 5 players over 90. They shouldn't be bottom of Division 2. They should be doing much better. And to be that far off, the 6 points off 11th, and have got 1 win in their last 6. It's very disappointing. And I'm quite surprised, to be honest, I would have expected them to do better. And then as I was for the top, James Young, top manager. Doesn't surprise me, Lazio, looking like they're going to bounce back. Ajax, another, Tom Joseph is in his first spell, did pretty well, but he's they're set to go back-to-back promotions, which is you gotta give a round of applause to that, Tom. You're doing a really good job for Ajax team. Ajax haven't been in Division 1 for a long, long time. 10 seasons potentially, going back 2022. Slid all the way down to Division 3, but Tom's put the position in Division 2 and 5 points ahead of third. Vinny's Chelsea. Vinny's a very good recruiter. Did well last year, get promoted. The two teams that have first and second from Division 3 are now battling to get promoted to Division 1. There's some real quality managers and clubs that have been built really well with long-term vision, and Chelsea's another one. Sociedad under Emmy, carrying on what Dale did. Milan, I'd like to congratulate Cal for actually winning the cup as well. EMG Cup, beating Flamengo. He's already secured a Cup Winners' Cup spot. Obviously, he's 7 behind Ajax. If he can come first or second, he'll go into the Champions Cup, but he's already secured his Connect Cup qualification. So for him, it's going to be now concentrate on the playoffs. And then Dan Taylor's Inter, after a disappointing season last year, after relegation 2 seasons ago, they're back in contention to get promoted to Division 1. Playoffs is a crapshoot. It can go out anyway, and they're 2 points ahead of Lebo, amongst Tottenham, who've slightly disappointed, and then 4 ahead of Everton. But yeah, I think there's some teams who have really underperformed in Division 2, but there's some teams who've done really, really well. And then Division 1. So Division 1 is led by Jonesy's Atletico. Barcelona are 5 points behind in second. Wolves are third on 27. Then Benfica and Rennes are in final Champions Cup spots, obviously, because Barcelona won the Champions Cup last season. 5th will qualify. Betis are in 6th. Man City 7th on 23. There's a four-team gaggle of 4 teams there who are looking to get those 2 final Champions Cup spots. Uche's Arsenal is 8th on 21. The defending Cup Winners' Cup champions Dortmund are in 9th on 20. PSG are in 10th on 19. Liverpool are 11th on 18. And then the bottom 3 is Flamengo, who are 18 points, but have a goal difference of -8. 1 goal behind Fizz. Fizz is Liverpool. Napoli are 13th on 16, and Real Madrid are 14th on 11. Any surprises for you in Division 1, Neri?
I think Benfica being what's on the table is actually something nobody expected to see. He's doing quite okay for himself, and despite the fact that he was some good players over the transfer window periods are still yet, his first season in Division 1 and he's 4th on the table. It's still too early to predict where we end up because, Division 1 can be a little bit tough at times, and especially in the second half of the season. But he has, Benfica has 4 wins, 1 draw out of their last season. So I think they are in a very good form, actually. And Liverpool being in a position that they are fighting for relegation position. You respect Liverpool to for there's this league winners course in EMG, so I think Fizz has something to run on that. It happened to Jones last season also, because while Liverpool and Arsenal were fighting for the league last season, Atletico Madrid, which happened to be the champion, is fighting for its life, trying to get out of the chance of so far so good. I think the only surprise this season is Benfica doing that well, being at the table, and Also, Arsenal. We expect them to at least make top four this season, or at least be in the top three after losing out on the league with just 2 games to go. I think was it 2 games to go when they dropped from first to second, like for the first time this season or something. Like they literally spent all this season top of the table, like real life Arsenal 3 seasons ago or something. So, but I think this season UC has been neglecting his team. He has not been as active as he used to be, and he's showing. I mean, there are some times where there's players that are not up to their normal physical strength. See players at percent fitness, 60% fitness, and he's playing them.
Yeah, Liverpool are suffering the Champions curse
for his green post job. But I think Liverpool can still escape relegation. And for Napoli also, you don't expect Napoli to be where they are. No wonder Pamitoye has been very, very, very silent. Unlike last season, in this stage last season, Pamitoye was very vocal. He was always talking. He was always having opinions, always chipping in. But this is actually the first time in a long time that I've checked in the Division 1 table. I had no idea I was winning there. And seeing Napoli almost at the bottom, it's shocking to me. Yeah, I didn't expect that. And they only had one win season game last season. So far, their last season game this season. So I think for Betis, they're actually doing okay. Although they are a new team, but if you check the newly promoted sides, Betis, Benfica, and who else promoted?
Real Madrid.
Real Madrid, yeah, Real Madrid. I think JJ has actually went out of his way. Like he has sacrificed some good youth talents to get in ratings to compete. He actually came in to Division 1 with the aim of competing. Did not come to like fight for survival or something. Like he has gotten Lewandowski, he has gotten Yamal, he has gotten Oman, Gnabry. I think his front four actually is good. I think only Atletico, Barcelona, and who else? Liverpool, and maybe Wolves. Maybe those 4 teams are only team that has a better attacking force than Betis. Let us see the team. Open the Betis team on the screen. Let us see it.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah. I was saying.
Open the Betis team on it. I want to check his defense because I knew he went for some meetings in defense also.
Yeah.
But, PSG as expected. I said they are going to struggle soon because new manager came in and want to review that squad. He has sold some ratings. He has brought in some leagues and speak to like overall and give them new identity here. So I think at the end of the day, I think PSG might actually elevate because they are just 3 points for safety. So 3 game, and they might find themselves in that relegation zone. So for me, I think bottom 3 for now, except Madrid. That I don't think you can turn it around. Maybe, but it will be a tough fight because I think Liverpool and Napoli are surely going to get out of that position soon. So, but close to Benfica for Southgate for doing a good job, and also Man City. Man City have been okay. Shout out to them also. They are really okay. They can maintain, they can keep it up. So, think that's enough for now.
Yeah. Obviously, Liverpool are suffering from the Championship curse that every manager who wins the league suffers. I think Fizz will stay up. If he goes down, obviously he'll get trolled by everyone, but he will stay up. That team should be a lot higher than they are. I think overall they'll probably end up finishing about 7th or 8th. I think they will. They've actually won 3 out of their last 6. 3 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses. If they can get a bit of form, they'll. I think they can secure Challenge Cup football. I think they're only 6 points off 5th, so with 10 games to go, Fizz could do his Fizzeo Wenger and come 4th or 5th or 4th, like he used to prior to last season. Starting from the bottom, Real Madrid, not useless. Like Real Madrid have 11 points after 16 games, 1 win, 8 draws, and that points tally looks really bad stats. But if you look at it, they scored 22 goals this season. That's the only teams to score more goals than Real Madrid are Atletico, Benfica, and Barcelona. Real Madrid, a lot of it is games that they should have won, they drew, and then there's 7 losses, including 4. They haven't won. Obviously, they've only won 1 game, which was against Rennes after a cup game.
I don't even think Real Madrid has a squad to beat yet in Division 1, actually. It's like 2 or 3 review windows to go to then get him back to where people expect them to be, So, you just have to work on your defense, actually. You've scored a lot and you've conceded a lot. Only Napoli and who has considered more good than Real Madrid. So.
Yeah, I think I knew coming into this season it will be tough. I know some people said, "Oh, you'll be fine." This season is probably a season too early. Real Madrid have a lot of players who are likely to get rating rises, like Morgan Gibbs-White. We just bought McAllister. There's a few players who are going to get rises, but obviously the rising window is going to be next season during the summer. So it's a season too early for us. We changed from 4-2-4 to 4-3-3-A. And at the start of the season, it worked well because we were getting points, in fact, probably throwing a few wins away. But we've hit a rot recently, which has meant that we're 7 points off 11th place Liverpool. We've got a big game tomorrow against Flamengo. If we lose that, we're relegated in my eyes. I don't think we'd stay up then because we'd be 11. We'd be 10 points behind Flamengo, who if we lose. I'm obviously going to have to try some new tactics. I'm not going to try 4-2-4 because even though it worked in Division 2, we haven't got the quality to play like that in Division 1. So we're going to have to play a bit more no-nonsense, shithousery type, classic relegation fodder football from like the Premier League in like 2000s, 2010s. Big Sam football, Tony Pulis football. Real Madrid will have to play like that for the rest of the season. And then just hope we can get some results. We have got a tough run in at the end, so the next couple of games are going to be really, really vital for us to win. Napoli did overperform last year quite a lot. They finished 4th, which was a very good season for them, but this season it's just gone, nothing's gone right. Bami has 1 win in his last 6. And it's a Bami team, so it's an aging team. You sense that, it could either go a bit stagnant or obviously decline. But obviously Bami's going to have to find a way to get some points. And he has been quieter than previously. He's still active, but he's not going on about how great Napoli are this season. because they've been pretty poor. Flamengo, obviously made the cup final, lost unfortunately to Milan. Have qualified for the Cup Winners' Cup, but I think the cup run's probably affected them a lot because Flamengo aren't a team. They've got good players, but they haven't obviously got the depth to do a cup run in Division 1. And obviously because of that, it's meant that they've sit in the relegation zone with 10 games to go. I do back Viltop to stay up. I think there's a couple of teams above them, maybe PSG and Dortmund, who could fall into the trapdoor and get relegated. But they've won three up. They've won three, lost three in their last 6. 9 points. Half their points total in the last 3 games. If they could just get it, it looks like they're on the start of a run. Obviously, they've got Real Madrid this week, which is probably the perfect game for them to play. But if they can get a few wins, I think they'll be fine. Obviously, 28 points is usually enough to stay in the league. 4 wins, 3 wins and a draw, and you'd be fine. PSG, they've hit a bit of a rot. Obviously, Dale's taken over from the abandoned, let's describe it, team that Sani left after 4 years. It's going to be a hard season for Dale. I think we all expected PSG to struggle this season, and they've probably done a bit better than we expected. It is a team that's obviously in transition, going for a rebuild. I think with Liverpool expected to win, and Flamengo looking like they can pick up a bit of form towards the end of the season, I'd worry a bit for PSG. I think they could fall through the trapdoor. And then Dortmund is a squad that is on decline. Bit of an aging team. Do have some... Let's look at their squad. So they do have... Obviously, they have quite a few youngsters. Esteval, Yildiz, Echeverri. But also, they're relying on... they've got 6 players over 90 rated. They haven't got a lot of talent. Got Boniface, got Tapsoba, Mikel Merino, David Raya. It's they're a team that haven't performed. They've just sold Luka Modric and Ronaldo in the last month or 2 months this season. Ronaldo was sold a couple of weeks ago to Napoli, so effectively they sold their striker to a relegation rival for 150 million. They're another team I'd worry about. I think they could, like PSG, fall for the trapdoor, especially if Napoli start winning as well as Flamengo and Liverpool. Then it's panic zone for Argent, and I think PSG and Dortmund could easily fall for the trapdoor. Uche's Arsenal. No, Uche hasn't been active this season. In fact, he's struggling to keep his job on activity. I think there's a little bit of a hangover from last season when he went 24 games unbeaten. He was almost an invincibles, and then he lost the last 2 games and lost the title to Liverpool in probably one of the biggest bottle jobs ever in this game, more than there's been some massive ones. Arsenal seems to have seemingly never been the same since then. Knocked out first round by Real Madrid in the Champions Cup, and then this season sit 8th on 21 points, 2 wins in their last 6, 2 wins, 4 losses. I think Uche must be fine. I think he'll stay up, but I do worry a little bit if the team's at the bottom and start winning, he's going to struggle to stay in the league with that form. He needs to really pick up some results. Otherwise, it's going to be an embarrassing relegation back to Division 2. And for an Arsenal team that haven't been in Division 2 since the days Jonesy was in charge, going back nearly 2 years ago, and that Arsenal team isn't young. There's a lot of ratings there. There's 96 rated Harry Kane and 94 rated Bernardo Silva. There's enough talent there to be doing better than they are. I think Uche's dropped the ball a bit, not changing his team, not realising that SMFA Cups doesn't affect his fitness as well, which is a bit of a bizarre one. But it's a very poor season for Uche's Arsenal, and I'm quite shocked. On the opposite, Mr. Trifonov is doing an excellent job at Manchester City. They're, after taking over Amazing, who went to Juve, a job previously vacated by Pane. And then obviously Rezanino took them over for a season before going to Leipzig. Pane has done some good deals actually as part of that rebuild at City. After years of Bammy, he's bought in. He's got a few younger players. He's not been afraid to sign some older players, but he's also invested a lot. I've just seen all the transfers he's done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 transfers in one season. Effectively done a full rebuild in one go. And to be sitting 7th after that,
he's always doing deals.
He is always doing deals. That is another thing as well. He is always doing deals, which is why he's always at risk of breaking squad cap. But to do it that quickly is pretty impressive, and to be 1 point off a top 4 finish, is commendable. And I've got to give a round of applause because everyone expected Man City to probably be bottom, if not in the relegation zone, along with PSG and probably Real Madrid. To be sitting 7th, he's 5 points above the drop zone, but to be sitting where he is currently, and after all the turnover all throughout the years of Man City, is a commendable job. And then Mr. JJ, the Kenyan Frauds Betis team, it's probably where we expected, to be honest. Maybe a little bit higher. He did bring in a few ratings because he knew he needed to stay in the league. But 6th place, outside of the top 4 by a point. 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses in his last 6. 8 points out of 18. It's pretty well. They're only 5 points off the amount you would usually need to stay up. And I think they could easily sneak into 5th. I'd be surprised if they drop off. I think Betis are a team who could easily be in that 8th to 5th bracket of Challenge Cup football every season from now on. Because I think JJ, as much as we troll him, he's a good coach, and I think he can do.
He's a good coach, actually.
Yeah, he is a good coach, and I think he has potential to build and kick on. And he's got the main man, Lamine Yamal. He's 25 assists or something in the last 25 games. Ridiculous numbers. And there's plenty there that could easily rise. And as for the form team in Division 1, Rennes, obviously Altamaz is not the most spoken, quite quiet. But he does a quiet and good job. He's got 5 wins this season. And by the looks of it, they're all pretty much been, other than 1 win at the start of the season, most of his wins have been recently, actually. He's actually not lost a game since the 6th of March when he lost to Real Madrid. He is the form team, Rennes are the form team in the game world, and if they can turn some of those draws into wins, they could not only secure a top 4 finish, they could get higher than that, and they could challenge maybe Jibril and Babajide's Barca and Wolves. They're only 4 points off Barcelona in second, and they keep that form up. Rennes could be back to where they were under Bojan for all those years and potentially be in the race for the title if Atletico starts stumbling. And as for the top 4, finally the sporting director, Mr. Saskid, finally becoming, after 4 years, has finally figured out how to manage his team. He's sitting 4th on 24 points, best out of the 3 teams promoted from Division 2 last season. He's finally managed to get Florian Wirtz working, and there's a lot of talent, as we said always with Benfica. Young, talented team, and he's finally managing to get it all working. And if he can keep this up, they could potentially in the future be Division 1 title challengers. But yeah, he needs, he just needs to continue getting results. 1 loss, 4 wins and 1 draw in his last 6. And he could easily come second or third. 9 points off Atletico with 10 games to go. He's not out the title race, but he could easily, it was a bit of a challenge, but he can easily come second or third. Wolves, 6 points behind Atletico, I think. Obviously, Wolves and Barca are still in the title fight, but I would have thought Wolves would have been a bit closer to Atletico. They've had a few stumbles. They've lost 2 and drawn 1 and won 3 in their last 6. I think Jibril always seems to be the bridesmaid and never the bride. I did predict Wolves to win the title this season, and I thought now he's left Al Shabab in Mena, which would be mentioned prior to this. I thought he would have tried to do what he did there with Wolves and maybe see if he can get a title and get a few. I think Atletico is just slightly stronger, and then obviously Barca's Gide's doing a good job with Barca. And I think Barca and Wolves need Atletico to drop some more losses if they're going to be in the title race. Otherwise, it's game over, and it'll be another Atletico Madrid title. They'll both finish top 4. They'll both be in the Champions Cup, but they need to close the gap a little bit. Barca have hit some good form recently. 1 loss in their last 6. Atletico lost 2. They lost to Flamengo on Thursday. If they can continue dropping points, that gap will close. It's just down to Wolves getting some consistency and Barca continuing that consistency. Now, Barca haven't obviously won the title since season 5, over 10 seasons ago. And Gide's never won Division 1, so he'll be hoping to not hit drops in points and be able to catch up with Atletico. And then Atletico lead. After last year's disappointment with the championship hangover, I think Atletico are back to where we expect them to be. Top. And yep, they just need to not drop silly points to teams at the bottom. They've lost 2 at their last 6, but those losses were to Flamengo 2-0, obviously in the relegation zone, and obviously 3-2 to second place Barcelona. And prior to that, then their only other loss was to Rennes this season. So that Flamengo loss was a bit of a silly loss, and they've got Arsenal coming up. And there's some tough games coming up. Rennes, Betis, Benfica. They got Wolves and Barcelona then back to back at the end of the season, and they really want to get the title secured by then. By Thursday, the 8th of May, when they play Wolves. Obviously, they need to be 9 points ahead, but they want to be in a position to maybe win the title away at Molineux against Jibril, or even at home against Barca. To avoid dropping points and being in a position then of doing what Uche did last year and throwing it away late on. But I think they will win the league. It's just they just need to. Hopefully that loss to Flamengo, that City loss to Flamengo, isn't something that's going to start happening more. And on to the questions. Now, let me just check the Google form. Let's see. There is one question, actually, which is just in WhatsApp that Jonesy has sent. Let's have a look to see what we got here. So we've got 3. So I'll start with Jonesy's first. Should we bring in targets, etc. for clubs if they don't hit them, take a demotion, sack them? Any views on this, Derry? So, I know there's a cable called Meet Your Targets, which has been around in multiple forms for quite a while.
What's the question again?
Should we bring in targets, etc. for clubs if they don't hit them, take a demotion, or sack them? So effectively, like Liverpool, for example, they'd be aiming to finish top 4. If they don't finish top 4, Fizz would get the sack. That type of thing.
I don't think that will work realistically.
No.
Because we have a lot of things that are not quite youthful success actually. Yes, let me put it that way. Like they are not success. In Division 1 this season, we have at least we have Man City, we have PSG, we have Dortmund, we have Real Madrid, we have I think those teams, even Dortmund actually, they are not quite here for success. So if you now give those teams a target, we discussed this a while back actually. Yeah. Wow, they bring that trend that has left the game with actually, where see managers go and buy old cheap players for waiting and try to win something. If you remember correctly, that is what actually destroyed UC's Mönchengladbach. There was a season Mönchengladbach was in the title race. If you can remember, they lost the title on I think the last day. Yeah, I think this was the last day. They draw away at Barca, or they draw with Barca, and I think was it not the nicest of someone that won the league? It is between the nicest and Pizarro that won the league.
Yeah, so I think it was the year Fizz.
What I'm trying to do. Yes. So you see went for success. Like it was as if he gave himself a target. Yeah. So he bought some players that happened, but he did some deals that he should not have done, not because he wants to, succeed. He wants to win something, like much more like what JJ has done this season. But JJ is more tactical. Yeah? He made those deals knowing fully well he still has good players in the reserve. Yeah. So if there has been a target, you would have gone all out to trade all those players, buy things, and if he did not make that the target, so I think okay, sacking another manager comes in, maybe the manager does like this. There won't be a squad fit, and in like 2-3 seasons, then probably a game word that is unappealing to anybody, because nobody, the managers, the game word might actually go along with the target setting of the team, but to recruit new manager will be hard, because they will look at the teams from afar and they will be like, nah, this can't work. Yeah, So I don't think that remind me again that setting targets, I don't think it's a good idea. So
no,
but if you can always hold managers accountable. When managers are about from me. When I was at Barcelona, I get the stick all the time for last season, Jones actually won the league the previous season before last season. And last season he was not doing well, and people were talking about it. So even that alone will make the manager sit up and try and do something, set targets for yourself. So I don't think we need to bring that into the game with us. That's what's work.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I know Gift has mentioned this quite a few times ever since we brought the activity in last year, and I know there's a few guys in Division 4 who've mentioned it, and yet obviously Division 4 at the moment, with us not having many managers being active in managers getting below 25 in main world. I know March last month we had a few guys on waivers, and obviously waivers from Ramadan. It's tough to get promoted from Division 4 to main world, but the problem is as well is with targets, as you shared, for example, Gladbach and Darucci. Gladbach will come in second and third, similar to Wolves now. just not being able to get past Liverpool or Atletico. Uche went all out, ruined his team, and Gladbach now under Naz fan are struggling to stay in Division 2. You the problem with target game worlds is if a manager isn't isn't good tactically or isn't particularly brilliant with transfers, you could put yourself at risk of ruining your team and just destroying a side just for glory. Because yes, a title is nice, but you'd rather long-term game other than short-term game. You'd rather long-term game, short-term pain than short-term game, long-term pain. And we don't, as game world admins, and we don't want the clubs to be wrecked because someone wants to win a title or get promoted. Lille under Okachukwu, yes, he got promoted to Division 1, had one season in D1, but they just collapsed after when he was there, and it was a really poor build. And look what happened to them. They churned through managers after he left. Obviously, David's been there since September, and they just collapsed down to Division 3 and the bottom of Division 3. And in the climate that SM is in now, where recruitment is very hard. Hiring managers from other WhatsApp game worlds is tough. And we have the activity rules, which is hard to get people in because some people are just not talkative. But to say to people, if you don't do well, you get sacked, you lose your club. There isn't enough managers, unfortunately, playing this game that would join WhatsApp for us to have that rule because. And we're not going to go and say, oh, we're going to get rid of the activity rule or just say people can join without being on WhatsApp. Because we saw what happened to GB League when that happened, and that would be the case if targets were brought in because there is just simply not enough interest. This game world's 16 seasons in, it's not a new game world. To get guys in and say, oh, we'll take a club in Division 4, and if you do well, you'll get a main world club. But if you don't do well in main world, you get sacked to Division 4 or a lesser club in main world. You'd lose interest. Some people have been at their clubs since 2020, 2021, 22. I mean, Saskid's been at Benfica ever since the game world started. The amount of years where they've underperformed. Saskid, as much as we've taken the piss out of him and called him a sporting director, for him then to say, oh yeah, you didn't do very well, you'll have to leave Benfica. It's hard for somebody to quit the game world because, as we see with guys who don't make 25, they leave. They get offered a Division 4 club and they just reject them. Sometimes they come back a bit later, but, it's... For some people, their club is what they're proud of with the build. And, I think target-based is just not going to work in our game world and climate and that being on WhatsApp. Maybe in a non-social media-based game world or on Facebook, yes. But I think with recruitment, we just can't afford to do targets. I think it's just not something that will work in EMG. Maybe in one of the smaller game worlds like Mainer, when we can get guys in from Main World to take clubs, but not in Main World, unfortunately. Next question. Which teams do you think will win each game division? So who are your 3 teams you think will win the title, Neri?
Title?
Yeah. So D1, D2, D3.
I think Juventus for Division 1. Juventus for Division 3.
Yeah.
So Division 1. I think it's Atletico's title to lose. So also in Division 2, I think Lazio are for the league. But anything can still happen in Division. You are not splitting Division 2. Because the squads of the Division 2 teams are like almost equally marked. So a little bit of bad form can turn the season around. Like it did, it actually happened last season also Division 2. So distance. So I'll go for Juventus to win Division 3 and let's go to win Division 1 and Division 2.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I think Juventus, unless they catastrophically fall off, I think they got Division 3 wrapped up. Division 2, I'm going to say Ajax. I think Ajax are a surprise package this year, and I think the fairy tale will continue, and I think they can wrap up Division 2 with Tom. And I think, James lost his last game to, who did he lose to? Lost to AC Milan, who were obviously in the playoffs. I think there's only 2 points in it between Lazio and Ajax, and Lazio, in theory, should be the team that should win that league, but I'm going to say Ajax. And then for Division 1, I think Atletico will win it. I think they will maybe have a couple of games where they don't win, but I just think Barcelona may slip up, and Wolves are just not consistent enough. And then both Barca and Wolves seemingly drop points to silly teams that they should beat. So I think Atletico will win the title. Maybe it gets to within the final day, but I think maybe with a game to go, they've got 5 points ahead of Barca. I think Atletico will win the league. Next question then. How well do you think the promoted D3 sides are doing in Division 2? So, the 3 sides that come up last year were Ajax, Chelsea, and United. Obviously, I think we mentioned this earlier today. United have been poor. They should be doing better. Chelsea and Ajax obviously are doing very well. I've just predicted Ajax to win Division 2, and I think Vinny's doing an excellent job at Chelsea, and I think both will finish in the top 6. So they both have Connect Cup football. Whether Chelsea win the playoffs, that's another thing, but they're both going to be in the Connect Cups. So, you can't. That's a very good season, especially with newly promoted teams. Final question. Are you happy with the activity in Mainwood? Yeah, I mean...
The activity is actually okay now.
Mm.
More managers are getting involved by the day, so that's what I like to see. You see the effort is there, the conversation is flowing, So most managers now these days, they come, they talk, and like a couple of months ago, some managers just come and change their numbers and go. Of course, we still have managers like that, but it's not as if they are actively doing it.
Yeah.
They just come online sometimes and I'm like, wow, have I met my targets? And most of the managers are asking these things. If you check, most times they have already made their targets. They are just like. So I think the conversations these days has been good. More managers like getting involved. So the activity is okay, right? It's even flowing over to the other game boards also, Now it used to be you, myself, Real and Co that talked about the other game was like Africa and everything. But these days, people talk about Africa, game boards, and Americas, yeah. So there's both, the EMG game board. So I think it's actually okay.
Yeah, I think overall activity, that after Gold got implemented last year, back in August, obviously we lost a lot of good active managers who unfortunately were unable to get Gold. Some have returned. Tom Joseph come back quite quickly. Mr. IMJ, Moses Jacobs came back quite quickly. Tenosh has come back, though he left because he broke a rule at Palace. He's just joined D4. Mohamed Adam joined Division 4 after losing his job originally at Division 4 due to the conflict going on in Sudan. There's a couple of guys in Mainwood who are not the most active, but that's always going to happen. You're always going to have guys who get 25 to 35 messages and scrape over the line. That is just, people have lives, Sometimes some of the conversations we have in a group are not the most for someone who isn't as engaged is going to enjoy. Some of the messages that Fizz and JJ send to each other in the group is probably ones that people would struggle to get involved with. But yeah, I mean, I think even guys in Division 4, I mean, it's a shame that we just don't have the jobs available at the moment, but Snake Eyes, always, getting over 100 messages in Division 4. Kane, I know he hasn't been so active so far in April, but, they're two guys that are getting in the top 20 overall in activity in the group, and they're in Division 4. Nassim's a guy, obviously just won EMG Americas, as was previously mentioned earlier, with Barcelona, Guayaquil. I'm going to really look forward to him, hopefully eventually getting into main world, because I think he's one of those guys who could do a really good job with whoever he gets in main world. Gertin Michi's been quite active this month. Mohamed Bilal's starting to get a bit active. I think it takes time with people who don't know some of the managers. All right, a lot of these guys are in other game worlds, but it does take time to get active, and you tend to find, I think having that month where you're not at risk of getting sacked, and then afterwards, having to reach at least 10 messages to keep your job in D4. Sometimes just getting 15, 20 messages for a couple of months before you're comfortable to start getting involved is good for someone in Division 4, especially if you're not the most talkative. But overall, pretty impressed. I've got to say, the activity rule came in a year ago. Our first sackings were end of April 2024 when we sacked Big Emmy, who obviously has returned at Sociedad. Admir, who else did we sack? Emikesh Freeze. We're at the stage now where the original guys in the game world who just weren't active at all have all left. The guys we brought in after, when we were replacing the gold guys, the Meakin brothers, that Australian guy who was at Ajax who didn't find the group engaging. Who else did we have? We've had some guys who just... Recently we had Walter Martins, the Portuguese guy who didn't really understand rules. We've had guys who just haven't clicked with the game world. But, we're clearly getting active guys in, which is good for the game world. We've recently got some guys from other similar game worlds. Obviously, Mark Spicer's been here for 6 months now. Greg Robinson, obviously VMA admin, but he's been here 3 months. All right, there's guys like Dale, Vinny, Dan Taylor that he knows, myself, Jonesy, Neri, but they're guys who just get involved with conversations, and those are the type of managers we want, because it's a game world that everyone is active and you get to know everyone is better than a game world where you've got people who you're not very close with, and the rules have been brought into is to encourage people to be active, because it's easier then to do deals with them, because if they're not so active and they're a bit closed in and difficult to contact, it's hard for admins and it's hard for people trying to just do deals. So, to get people all engaged and involved, that's why that's why we brought the activity rules in, and obviously it clearly works. And obviously it could be higher, but we're not going to risk fucking the game all up to just make it more, force managers send more messages. It's fine as it is, 25 for main world, 10 for D4 to keep your club. The D4 figure keeps managers there for a few months, and then hopefully eventually then over time they get more and more active. And then main world, 25 messages is nothing. I mean, if you send a preview and 2 messages for preview, 2 messages for post-match, is 8 games in a month. That's, 8 times 4? That is 32 messages. That keeps you in the job. Add cup games. At start season, you're comfortable. There's managers in this game able to do that, and there's nothing wrong. They're not breaking rules. They're happy to do that. So, we can't. Obviously, the activity rules clearly worked, and obviously overall a year in, it's been highly successful. And obviously, it's kept the game world relevant, and especially in the hard times that SM is just the uncertainness of where the overall game is going in the next 6 to 12 months. So yeah, overall happy with the rules for activity. Okay, that's the last question. I'd like to thank Neri for coming on today. Obviously, this is the fourth game world we discuss. Obviously, only when me and Neri discuss. Obviously, for anyone who listened previously, you'd have knowledge about EMG Americas, how that season ended, the EMG Africa update, and Maynard's update, and obviously mainly the big news about the new manager at Al Shabab. So yeah, we're going to try and make this a fortnightly thing every 4 games, whether that's just me giving an update or, having an update for the three America's, Main and Africa, and then me and Neri or me and Babaji did just going through Main World and Division 4. So hope you all enjoy.